Hi there, Dan Sutton, CEO of Syntholene, coming to you live today to introduce a very special partner and project contributor to the future of Syntholene's success. Eirikur Bragason, thank you so much for joining us today. Please do introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, hello Dan. Yeah, and hello everybody. My name is Eirikur Bragason. I'm an engineer. Actually, I studied in Germany, although I'm an Icelandic citizen, and studied civil engineering, project management, and then later business and administration. So I've been working on geothermal power projects more or less all my life. Started to work on projects here in Iceland, where I was very lucky. I was hired by Reykjavik Energy, and we built up a 300 megawatt power plant, and also extended another one. And after that, I was hired by a company in Singapore, and we started developing power plants in Philippines and Indonesia, and a couple of European countries. Built up a 200 megawatt power plant in Indonesia, and also very small ones like the Tura power plant in Hungary. It's 3 megawatt, but it's combined heat and power, so it's has actually 3 revenue streams: selling power, selling heat, and also selling H2S for the agriculture business. So it was a small, but I like that project also very much because it was super feasible, profitable.
Fantastic. And that is the key to the future of advanced energy systems in the world. I've been fascinated by geothermal for the last few years and feel so lucky to be able to collaborate with people with this sort of multi-decades of experience. But geothermal in the right places and accessed the right way can deliver baseload consistency. It has that ability to deliver district heat, keep our houses warm, super important in the nation of Iceland, I'm sure. And also those other streams. Syntholene is built on the premise that, especially with higher temperature resources, such as the ones we see in Iceland, 150 degrees Celsius, 200 Celsius, even more and higher over time, that we could use that heat for industrial applications. In our case, it's chemical synthesis, but feasibly other co-located industrial uses. Do you see a future of geothermal being able to provide that high temperature energy that's so necessary for a diversity of industrial operations today?
Absolutely, Dan. No question about it. I think even Iceland is probably the only country in Europe that can provide such temperatures like 250, 320 degrees Celsius, a steady stream of hot steam, But as you stated yourself, then the feasibility is also very important. And the key to success here in Iceland, and the main reason behind low power prices, is that the power plants are most of them producing heat and power. So the core of the infrastructure, the wells, the geothermal wells, they are an investment that are covered with heating revenues and power revenues, and sometimes some other revenues. So this results in very low power prices in Iceland. And that is the key reason why Iceland is the largest aluminum exporter in Europe. We have 3 huge aluminum plants in Iceland, and they are all operating on very steady, clean, profit, reliable, good energy from the geothermal power plant.
I've also been deeply enamored with Iceland, not just as a nation. Great place to visit, incredible place to tour around. I was lucky to go with my wife last year, and both of us were just blown away by the food, by the people. But Iceland is also very special when it comes to advanced self-sufficient energy sources. And it may be the only nation on Earth that has an entirely renewable grid in the form of low emissions hydroelectric and low emissions geothermal. That's really amazing to supply what is quite a sophisticated set of infrastructure from, I think, 12 ports to 3 airports and an aluminum industry that's thriving, the fishery, the tourism business. All of these things are built on the back of these robust and clean energy systems, which makes it kind of a lesson for the rest of the world in how to do that right. But Iceland is also a pretty small nation. And considering how much energy is currently being delivered from the grid, what do you know about the potential for geothermal resources in Iceland? Is there a lot more power than is currently being used?
Yeah, probably approximately 1/10 of the resources that can be developed in a feasible way has already been developed. So there's a lot of potential for producing more power. And by the way, the Icelanders have not started any development with wind or solar. So simply hydro and geothermal are more than sufficient, providing the sufficient capacity for the people.
And so when we think about other potential users of that power, that's why Syntholene was so attracted to Iceland as a great place to do business and a great place to access the kinds of energy inputs that we're going to need to scale up our production of clean synthetic fuels. But are there other industrial uses and other co-located uses that make the most sense for being able to see Iceland continue to expand its grid for industry that doesn't necessarily reflect the small scope of the population?
Yeah, well, I think the aluminium business is, as you said, it's one of the core sectors in the Icelandic economy. But for example, the data center business is also growing very rapidly, and Iceland is an island kind of between America and Canada versus Europe, and we are connected with a row of fiber optical cables. So this is also a good place for data centers. And especially when we're going into the AI and the exploding need for data storage, then the data centers are using enormous energy and growing very rapidly.
It's also nice for those quite heat intensive or exothermic. They create a lot of heat, and that heat needs to be managed in that compute and in those server farms. Iceland's pretty cold inherently, so it's a great place to just keep the data centers cool without having to add huge air conditioning costs that would be inherent in a place like Texas or in the southern United States.
Absolutely, you just need to open the window.
Very good. And so more diversified industrial use of this energy. When you first came across the opportunity for hydrogen production and synthetic fuel, how did you think about that with your relatively sophisticated understanding of Iceland's infrastructure? How does that fit into the future of a more independent Iceland producing, liquid fuels and energy sources, energy batteries in that way?
Well, actually, rather perfectly, because this project is both benefiting from relatively low power prices, but also the enormous capacity in providing heat. But also fits very well to the strategy of the Icelanders being self-sufficient with fuel for the airplanes and the cars. I mean, we are in the process of electrifying the car fleet, but as you know, it's we have to work out some solution for the airplanes, and we have quite a dense traffic of tourism, as you said, but it's also a very popular hub. I mean, from Iceland, you can fly every single day to approximately 20 cities in US and 40 cities in Europe. And this is quite a popular hub to come in, change plane, and then continue overseas.
Well, I'm very pleased that Icelandair flies a direct flight from my hometown in Vancouver, BC. I've taken it a few times, and it is an airline that is not just, well operated and well organized, but I think they do a fantastic job of hospitality, welcoming people into Iceland. My experience with Iceland is very proud people. They want to show the world, what they have to offer, and I think Icelandair and their hub offering of being able to use Reykjavik and Keflavik as a jump off point to other cities in Europe from North America and the other way, they do a fantastic job of that. And we are very proud to call them a customer and a partner and to be expanding that relationship over time. Now, on to Syntholene's immediate goals. You and I are working together to help develop what will be the world's first demonstration facility of, as you mentioned, a thermal hybrid production pathway for hydrogen and on to synthetic fuels. When we look at the nature of that relatively small, relatively simple set of infrastructure in the regions that we're talking to, how achievable do you think that is within 2026?
I think it's very much achievable, and I think the time schedule we are working with is quite realistic. And very important also that we have a solution-oriented, motivated team, and that is what we are heading for. And then I don't see any major obstacles. Of course, we need to work on the very few permits that we need to provide, but assuming that they will be in place in time, then I don't see any major obstacles.
That's great to hear, and I share your confidence. The team really is everything, and it's not just the core team, it's the sort of satellite and constellation of other stakeholders across the project. And we have been welcomed by Icelandic federal government, by our region and our municipality, and they've really been working well with us to help at least give us a predictable pathway, and I really value that. Once that demonstration is in place, should we be successful, and that in and of itself, I think, is a really groundbreaking step in being able to show that low-cost, economically competitive synthetic fuels are with us. The technology exists. We will see them proliferate, certainly in the next 5 to 10 years. What do you think about the ability to scale up to commercial scale production to supply Icelandair, feasibly to supply other customers in Iceland generally? Is it a place where there's a political appetite for this kind of project? And if so, is it a place where the permitting, the feed studies, the community engagement, the environmental permitting, all of the other aspects that go into a successful commercial scale production project, do you think that those are good opportunities for us in the nation of Iceland?
Yeah, I think so. And especially now we have a kind of a minor shift in the government policy, and that is very welcoming very much for investment, and also all the economists in Iceland see that the core reason for the growth in the Icelandic economy is very much related to those huge projects like the aluminium smelters and other industrial projects that both bring investment and jobs, continuous revenues, and that is what the government and the authorities are all aiming for, to welcome foreign investors that are working on sustainable and beautiful projects like Syntholene.
Well, that's great to hear, and I think a strong lesson to the rest of the world too, because in our pursuit of potential project sites where we want to make long-term investments, we want to build large economies for jobs and give people a new chance to learn a new trade in the opportunity to produce synthetic fuels and other synthetic chemicals over time. The power, availability, the energy cost, these are all incredibly relevant parts of our strategic decision making. To go and build a facility like this in an exceptionally high electricity cost region would just be a non-starter, unfortunately, right out of the gate. the cost of energy and the efficiency with which you use that energy are the only two levers that Syntholene has to be able to control our unit economics and ensure that our airline customers can make self-interested choices when they purchase our fuel. But I think the political viability and the bureaucratic viability of these projects is a really important segment of risk and consideration for project developers wherever they are. There are some places in the world that have been so swallowed up by bureaucracy that they've forgotten the importance of being able to encourage investment in these advanced energy systems and in these opportunities to create real, high growth economies. We need a lot of hydrocarbon fuels, for instance, around the world. I think we consume about 100 million barrels a day. And so we want to keep those clean and lean and synthetic wherever possible. But that's something that I've found Iceland has done really well, is at least laying out a predictable set of achievable outcomes. These are the things we're going to do. And if you can demonstrate your capability there, then we want to get behind you and we want to work with you. And so where do you think that comes from Iceland's cultural history? You guys are a special island of special people. And what do you think it is about Icelanders that make them so uniquely capable of delivering like their low emissions energy grid and all this incredible infrastructure you have in the country?
Well, I think it's a big question, but I think, actually this culture of solving issues and being solution-oriented, I think that has helped us a lot. Like I said earlier, I've been working in many countries, including Germany, where I lived for 11 years. And there is a huge difference between the mentality in Germany and Iceland. Germans are very nice people, don't misunderstand. But they are very much, fixed in the rules and regulations, where the Icelanders are more, they are following the rules, but they are more solution-oriented, and it's easier, to get contact with the minister or the parliament members and get things corrected if they are not properly outlined in the regulation.
I tend to agree, and it helps me approach these problems with more ambition and more excitement when I know that my internal team are solutions finders type 1, and then we have project management talent like yourself and other stakeholders in Iceland that want to figure out how do we overcome one problem at a time, one step at a time. And that's certainly been my experience of Iceland. I'm really proud to be doing business there, really proud to be building infrastructure there, and creating jobs in Iceland, for Iceland, making fuel in Iceland, for Iceland. It's such a privilege. And Eric, that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great getting to know you a bit, and looking forward to sharing this with our audience, and looking forward to driving forward on that demo facility for completion towards the end of 2026.
Yeah. Thank you as well, Dan. Thank you for the talk. Thanks.